Good afternoon everybody, hope you're all keeping really well. This week we're going to have a little wander out in the field. Things have dried up a little bit, so it's out with the mowers, and more specifically this week we're going to be looking at cylinder mowers. So we'll have a look at 2 or 3 of the different ones that we use at tillers. We'll talk a little bit about the machines themselves, and I want to just talk about cylinder mowing and some of its advantages a little more in depth, and we'll also take a closer look at a mowing unit, talk a little bit about how it works. So I'm not going to waffle on, let's have a wander out. I know Steve's out on the V-Mow, Mark's out on the Zizzer. Let's go take a look. As Steve takes his final pass down the field, we'll just talk a little bit about the V-Mow itself. So 16.2 metres wide, so extremely productive, all run on GPS as we've seen in a previous video, so minimal overlap, minimum waste, and this obviously not only makes the machine more productive but also saves with fuel consumption, which is all absolutely fantastic for the environment too. So fantastic mower, and a lot of people ask why the V formation, but when you sit in the cab with the V formation it's almost wrapping around the tractor, and you can see the edge of the mower, see where it's working without having to crank your neck and look right back behind you. So it also makes it a lot more manoeuvrable into corners and a lot easier to move around and manoeuvre in general. So the whole system works really well. We're really pleased with it. Like I say, massively productive. What we'll do now, we'll have a walk into another field, we'll have a look at the machine that was a predecessor to the V-Mow, and that's the Zizzer. I've literally just crossed the road into field number SW12 and just have a walk over and see Mark. Mark is on the Zizzer. Now when I started at tillers I used to think this was a big mower at 10 metres wide, but an absolute baby compared to the V-Mow we just looked at. But the principle, it's the same, it's a cylinder mower, it is all GPS driven, so you might see behind me where it's all been cut in landings. This gives Mark a nice wide turn at the ends. Make sure we're not creating any unnecessary wheel damage or scuffs at the end of each pass. So we'll just take a closer look at this, and in a moment I'll talk a bit more about the advantages of the cylinder mowing itself. So what are the advantages of cylinder mowing? Now there'll always be a debate, cylinder versus rotaries, particularly in the domestic market, but there's massive advantages to using a cylinder too in turf production. So like we see with the greens clipper here, we've got a 10 metre wide mower there. I'm not quite sure how many cutting units it's got on it, but such like as the V-Mow that's got 23 over 16 metres, that means you've got fantastic weight distribution. So you've got a single weight on each unit, it's riding on the roller too, which again is spreading the weight beautifully across, so we're not creating any unnecessary compaction across the field. We've got nice soft turf tyres too on the tractor, so it's keeping the turf nice and fit, nice and healthy. But also with the cylinder you're always going to get a much cleaner cut as long as it's set up properly, and every year these mowers come in, probably twice a year, to be cylinder ground and sharpened up. Now the quality of cut is really important. If we start nagging, we start creating an environment that could promote disease and unhealthy turf. If you get a nice clean cut, it will help to retain moisture, to retain nutrient, to sort of discourage any kind of disease activity at all, and just gives a much cleaner cut. And we also have the advantage of being able to go with lower heights of cut too, so therefore the lower we can go, the tighter we can mow with the cylinder, the quicker it's going to tiller out, the stronger the turf's going to get, which is going to make it better to lift. So we'll wander a little bit further now and we'll have a look at another cylinder mower in action, and we'll talk a little bit about the cylinders themselves. We'll take a close look at the cutting unit and I'll explain how it works. Before we go out and have a look at the last cylinder mower of the day, I thought I'd take the opportunity just to call in the workshop and just run through a very typical cutting cylinder. Now this one's off a Jacobson mower, and in principle they're very, very similar. They have obviously the cutting mechanism and the rollers, adjustments, and so really what I want to do is just talk you through some of the key features. So with this one, this is what we call a floating head unit. So as you can see here, when it's mounted on the machine, it floats front to back and side to side. So obviously you've got something like an undulating golf fairway, it's going to follow the contours, it's not going to bridge over any low spots, and you're going to get a good, clean, tidy cut. So we've got the two front rollers, which obviously dictate the height of cut, and it has a grooved front roller at the front, so we've still got the great weight distribution between the discs, but what we're not doing, we're not squashing the grass down before it has a chance to go through the cutting cylinder. We have a smooth roller on the back, and this is the one that gives us the nice stripes and the nice presentation once we finish the mow. We also have a scraper across the back, so we don't get an accumulation of grass on there, which again can affect the height of cut. And then we have the two adjusters here. That's the cylinder to bed knife adjustment. So again, just gently side to side, single little clicks until we get it cut in the paper and set up perfectly for cutting. Then in this side we have a socket for the hydraulic mechanism to go in, so the hydraulic drive off the, it's of a dedicated power unit. And these days it might be hydraulic, or it can be hybrid, or even electric nowadays. So there's a real sort of choice and a mixture of ways to drive the cylinder itself. On the other side we have a weight which acts as a counterbalance. This maintains a nice even spread of the weight across the whole cylinder. So when it comes to the cutting, one of the most important things really is setting the front rollers up. We shouldn't be setting them both flat, dead level. We have to set them with a very slight angle, and this is what we call the attitude. And this ensures that the cylinder is going into the grass sward to mow at the best possible attack. And then looking at the cylinder itself, again it's a very, very scissor-like action. So with a pair of scissors, you have that cutting action, blade to blade, and if ever you've used a blunt pair of scissors, you'll notice it doesn't cut very well. The same applies to mowing. But the really important thing is to make sure that when we set it up, the cylinder is not connecting with the bed knife, because this can cause metal to metal, it causes the heat up, cause hot spots in there, which can cause things like tram lining and areas that simply don't get cut. So it can completely distort the whole bottom blade itself. So when we set it up, we normally use a piece of paper, and we're looking for an ultra thin air gap all the way along here. So the speed of the cylinder will trap the grass blade between there and the bed knife, and so long as this is sharp, it'll cut it no problem at all. And like I said earlier, that clean cut is so important on moisture retention, on nutrient retention, and also to not expose the blade to disease by nagging, ripping the end open. The way I look at it is, at the end of the day, a surgeon wouldn't use a blunt scalpel. So the sharper the cut, the quicker the heal, and the better the presentation overall. So all fab stuff, so let's go out and have a look at the mower. The final cylinder mower we're going to look at today is the Toro 6700. Now we have a fleet of these 7-unit fairway mowers, and these are used predominantly on a fescue turf and also on Arena Gold shortcut. The biggest difference between these and what we've looked at earlier is this one isn't tractor towed, it's self-propelled. So the units are wrapped around the machine, so we've got a good weight distribution over the 7 units, which is also taking pressure off the weight of the machine itself, so making it fantastically lightweight, fantastically kind to the turf. This is really, really important when it comes to our fine turf, so our fescues, our bent fescues, where we use dedicated fairway mowers, triple mowers, and things that you would associate in a golf course. But the finesse on these machines, they have more cylinders, more blades. The finesse there allows us to get lower heights of cut and a good dense mature sward before the harvest. So all in all, does a fabulous job. Ryan's behind us, he's got a big field ahead of him, but takes a bit longer, but well worth the effort. I hope you enjoyed that video looking at cylinder mowing, and not only looking at the lightweight fairway mowers that Ryan's been on in this field, but also some of the monsters we have at tillers in the Vemo, the Zizzer, and this video has been dedicated to cylinder mowing. We will do one looking at rotary mowing at some point, and we'll look at 1 or 2 of the advantages over the cylinder mowers that may have. Now for me, it's cylinders all the way. I guess that's my golf course background. I've been brought up on cylinder, I've brought up on finesse mowing, but for me the benefits there are clear to see. And as long as you can keep them sharp, as long as you can dedicate the time for more regular mowing than rotary mowing, you will need to keep on top of it. If it starts to get long and leggy, that's when you need to bring your rotary in to top off and start all over again. So with frequent mowing, there's no doubt, in my mind, it's more beneficial. So if you like the video, please share it, please retweet it, subscribe to Tiller's Turf TV on YouTube if you haven't already, and as always, thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. We'll catch you next week. Take care, everybody.